Basically, yesterday I was talking to my crew from the Commonwealth of Australia, and I had a guy who was talking about how important is to have a treaty with the original people from the land, which is in Australia is not even now existing. There is no treaty. That's what he told me. There's no treaty, so they don't have any sovereignty. And how is it important basically to do that treaty, which he's offering, you know, like to everybody. If we put something down, what most of people want, you know, we just, you know, ignore the system, and we just like make a people treaty and make that happen. And I want to go back to this Treaty of Waitangi 1840, and that proves how important it is to have a treaty with the original people of the land. I'm just going back into history, trying to reflect, you know, the whole situation to the situation right now, because there is no time, you know, time doesn't exist, only our consciousness. So these old people from 1840, you know, when they were overtaken with this wordplay, they were not conscious what happened. And basically at the moment for most of us, like, get this consciousness who we are, and how this, you know, how all these acts basically bind us, but bind them too. But as soon as we know what our position is in this acts, you know, we can protect ourselves. And this is where I couldn't agree, where some members of the Commonwealth of Australia couldn't agree. Some of them thought we need a treaty. Some of them said we're already sovereign. You know, we don't need a treaty with the original people. So if you, Kathy, or Nelson could explain how important and why this treaty with these original people from the lands are, because people that are born here in Australia, they say, well, why would I need a treaty? You know, I feel sovereign, I'm born here. So why is it important to have that treaty, even if, for example, you're claiming I'm born here, I feel, you know, I'm already sovereign.
Are we starting now? Or?
Yep.
Okay. Well, that Treaty of Waitangi is a huge issue here that hasn't been resolved, and from our own investigation into that treaty, it's it was a nullity. A Chief Justice said it was a nullity, but the only ones that are keeping it, trying to enforce it is our own people when it's a nullity. And the very fact that it's a nullity, and looking at the circumstances why it is, it didn't protect the original people. It was done by deception, and specifically with the words that were used in relation to the word Māori, actually is a translation of the British subject. And our people have been forced to use that word to identify themselves when it's a fiction. So the original people are not Māori. And what the word Māori represents is the British subjects. And looking at the evidence, it was the British subjects that settled here and established a colony through the Port Nicholson Deed of Purchase in 27th of September 1839. They ratified that agreement, and they extended the boundaries from Port Nicholson to the territories and to all the colonies. That's all the colonies worldwide. And then they made a provisional proclamation, which was for the administration of justice. And then they made a proclamation, and they were instructed to enter into a treaty so that they could be reunited back with the British Empire. And they took their proclamation to Waitangi over several days for a public meeting. They translated their proclamation to create a treaty so that they could be reunited with the British Empire, and they used the original people to mandate that at a public meeting. But our people are still trying to enforce something that is affecting them and everyone else worldwide. So that treaty is very, very deceptive. And then you've got to look at who they were dealing with at the time. And the principal company and all its subsidiaries, we're talking about the ship owners and the merchant bankers of the City of London, who were the private members of the House of Lords, who were the Khazarian bankers. They came in with William the Conqueror 1066 and set up Parliament. Now, Parliament is a franchise. Wherever there's Parliament, there's the original franchise. That's why Guy Fawkes tried to burn it down. So we have a Parliament in the UK, United Kingdom of Great Britain, Ireland and Scotland, but we also have the sister parliament to that in New Zealand, where the private members shifted their operation to New Zealand, specifically because of the timeline. First in time, best in law, and all trading is conducted through the international timeline, which is New Zealand. So there's the bankers again. So when we're talking about the subsidiaries of the East Indian Trading Company, we're also talking about the South Seas Fisheries, the Wakefield Land Company, which is the New Zealand Land Company, which is the Five Eyes: New Zealand, Australia, Canada, America, Great Britain. The Five Eyes. They're all a corporation. They were a corporation when they colonized everyone. So from here in New Zealand, they established, and it's on the record, they gazetted for 1.5 years every week the new form of land ownership and bondage. The new form of bondage that replaced slavery was called employment.
Exactly.
Are you employed? And that was for your person. And they also, through Lord John Russell, established a new form of registration of birth, deaths and marriages in 1836. And that was adopted from the French. The Central Registry of Birth, Deaths and Marriages is in Prague. That's where the Knight Templars were operating out before they got sacked. So when we look at the birth, deaths and marriages, registration of civil registration of registrable events, that registry and wherever that country is, it's all linked to the World Health Organization, which is / the World Bank. That's where birth, death and marriages are linked to, the World Bank, which is all, which funds the United Nations. Now, all international organizations that operate through the United Nations derive their diplomatic privileges and immunities from New Zealand legislation. And their whole matrix of controlling everyone's estates and inheritances, you'll find in the double tax agreements with all those countries that have a double tax agreement with New Zealand. Everything's controlled from New Zealand. And we're joined to Australia through the Trans-Tasman Mutual Recognition Act. And when you look in there, it's all about registration and occupation. The occupation is the registration number. The registration number is your birth certificate number. So these corporations, they establish control under the usufruct, which is through military occupation. Oh, you got an army, standing army. You got a navy. You got an air force. You got a police force. There's your corporation. And they only have jurisdiction over your person. That's the problem, is your person. And he's operating in a public jurisdiction that was created for a civil registration under a civil, administrative, and criminal jurisdiction. That's the public corporation, corporate body. On the private side, the crown, here's the prerogative, the equitable, and the common law jurisdiction. That's if you're the crown. You can't mix the jurisdictions. There's a private and a public partnership going on, and that relationship is going on at the baseline when you were born in your mother's womb, where there are two nations at war with each other, representing the fetus and the placenta. The elder shall look after the younger. And the elder in this case is the name on your birth certificate, which is the system. So when we're in conflict with the courts, the government, we're actually in conflict with our placenta, the name on the birth certificate. That's what it all boils down to. So we can actually articulate this and show the chronology of this, all hidden in legislation. And this is what underpins and funds the whole fiat currency and their leverage over everyone else through those financial instruments. It's your person on the birth certificate. That's who everyone is governed by. So, and that all starts with a simple agreement. And if I show you the hidden features, people don't realize that, you know, a piece of paper, nothing on it, but there's so much attached to that piece of paper in legislation. There's all these agreements that you didn't even see before you put your name on it. That's the hidden hand of control.
Terms and conditions.
I'll take you right there right now. So
yeah, if I can just stop you there, because we are already talking about birth certificates, but I'm confused about, you know, this is all a new concept for me, whole Commonwealth, you know, and now what I realized that there is a corporation, and there is a mention, you know, and many of people that are familiar with this mentioning that, like, our birth certificate got lost at sea, and as well there is some law of sea and law of the land, and that all this corporation somehow is the law of the sea. And if you realize that that doesn't apply on the law of the land, you know, how do we connect this all? If you could, like, puzzle it or help me puzzle it together in my head.
Yes. Well, you know the papal see?
Again?
The papal see, church and state.
Okay, yeah.
Papal see. It's a sea of paper.
Oh, sea of paper.
Yeah, that's the papal see. So the
okay.
So see, a lot of the words that we are using every day have got hidden meanings, especially when you do the etymology of a word. A word can be made up of several words, creating an acronym and not realizing that there's a whole story behind one word. Just for example, these declarations of independency. Oh, it's got a C on the end of it. Which C is that? Is that the Holy See, S-E-E, or the C, S-E-A, or is it New Zealand, Z-E-E, or Z-E-A? Or is it C-E, which is C, which is an acronym for the Church of England? See the deception just within that word independence. Everyone believes they got the independence, but really it puts you in the pen, puts you in the den through the pen.
Exactly. Well said. Wow.
So everyone's fighting for their independency through the papal see under the lunacy, which is making everyone lunatics and idiots.
And that's where we lost our heredity.
It's through the sea. The sea of commerce, but it's operating in the words and on the piece of paper. The paper is the sea of commerce. What you see out there, the physical application of it, is just a result of that. So that all starts with an agreement, and the terms and conditions, or all the elements of that agreement, you'll find in the Health Sector Transfer Act. Health, which is synonymous with wealth. Health and wealth is the same word. So they're transferring wealth through the health. That's why the most funded organisation connected to the World Health Organization and the World Bank. It starts off with your enrollment at the primary health organization. See, they didn't capture you in the womb, they captured your mother, who was already enrolled through that agreement before you were conceived in the womb, before you were born in the womb, before you were actually birthed. It's that enrollment.
If I can add something to that, I was thinking today, just it popped, you know. Basically, your mother unconsciously registered you, and that's how she basically gave to them your crown. You were alive when you're born. Kathy said there was a record in Kathy or somebody else. Sorry if I'm confusing. There is a record on the hospital when you were born, but there is no name on it.
Yep.
So you were born, and I just want to add this: in Roman law, there is this presumption that the baby is considered born if the issue is like something is being decided and it's about the baby's rights and the baby's benefit. For example, a heritage. So if a mother is pregnant and there is, you know, the heritage dissolution going on, like it's the baby will be considered alive, and as well, parents can go in contract for their children, but only if the contract is bringing something to the children, not taking away. So I was thinking, could this be approached somehow through law and just break the whole spell, you know, if we like go through this system? And as well, if I can add, so I don't interrupt you, I know you need to, when you talk, there is so much information, I don't want to confuse you. I want to as well go back to this incident, basically 1834, where they, you know, like set up this game with the French or whatever they did, you know, so the original people were stopped to bring their goods with the ship somewhere. Is that the incident? So I don't know much about, I would like to know about that incident more. Yeah.
Okay.
So these two things, yeah.
Okay. Let me pull up. Right. Okay. I just sent an email of in regards to that chronology of events to someone else. Are you able to access that, Kathy? That email with those attachments? Now, this whole process of colonization, after the doctrine of discovery through Christopher Columbus, who apparently was Muslim and Iranian, they did another doctrine of discovery through the East Indian Trading Company. They sent out a society, the Church Missionary Society, and they were looking for certain people and they were identifying them by their customs and practices. They were looking for the 12 tribes of Israel using the Bible, and they came amongst a lot of those tribes. Now, New South Wales, they established that that's where the first man and woman was created. The archaeology over there, the black fellows over there that we're working with can confirm that, where Adam and Eve was actually created through the Anunnaki mingling with, coming to Earth and mingling with the daughters of man, created the hybrid, Adam and Eve, there. And that was where man went out into the world and pre the flood, and then from the flood, they traced the 8 that were on the ark, and the tribes, 12 tribes come off that. So they were looking for a Pacific bloodline to capture and give effect to their global control. So I'll put it another way. If you found the one person that was as old as time, and everyone comes off that one person, and you capture that bloodline, you capture everyone in the world. The beginning.
Can I just stop you there? Sorry.
Mm.
Why would they go so deep if they basically already like scam the world, and they have so much money, you know, and they can just come with the army and terrorize you and like bring you to your knees? Why would they need to do any treaty with anybody? That's what, you know, puzzling me, if they're so powerful.
Well, they were, during that time, they were doing the global expansion, the imperialism, the empire. So they had to go out and capture everything under that period. So what's the best way to, as we've seen, they've done treaties with all these other original people, and none of those treaties have stacked up or enforceable today. And because we don't know the hidden technology they were using behind those agreements, that's the problem. And who was the crown in all those agreements that they had entered into. But more to the point, they were looking for a certain bloodline going back to a certain event where the new world was claimed after the flood, when everyone supposedly was lost to the sea during that flood. You know, when they're talking about the Sedicate Trust and all that, everyone's lost to the sea. We have to go back to that event, Noah's Ark. And we've done our own research to verify a few things in regards to that, because of the symbolism on the flags. Now, if you look at the 1834 flags, there were 3 of them. One that was chosen by the Northern tribes, which is actually the national flag, which represents the nativity of the birth of a person, corporate. Nativity of the birth of the person is what that flag represents, but it also represents the Northern tribes, the biblical texts, the Northern tribes. And then the other flag with the white, that was being flown by the Southern tribes, and that is the royal ensign. So you got a national flag and a royal ensign. What's that telling you? One representing all the nations, and one representing the royal or a royal bloodline. And the third flag, which only has a 5-pointed star, represents the House of David. So you got the Northern and the Southern tribes in the House of David. And yes, you got a tribe here up north who come off ancestor called Rahiri, which is David. So there's a lot of stories about all the different tribes of the of Israel migrating to New Zealand. So when we look at that context, going back to the 12 sons of Jacob, and Joseph being sold into slavery for the other brothers, and then he becomes the chief administrator for Pharaoh, and he has twin sons, born in Egypt to an Egyptian princess, and referring to Jacob giving the double blessing to Ephraim, which is the birthright to all of God's kingdom here on earth. That's what we're talking about. So we got Ephraim and Manasseh, right? That's what those three flags represent. And that's after the flood. But going back to the flood, the 8 pointed stars on the 4 quadrants of the eastern quadrant represents the 8 that were on the ark. And we actually went to Bougainville to confirm what's in Article 1 of the Declaration 1835, where it says Irara Mai o Hauraki. It actually represents that bloodline. That bloodline going back to the first man that stepped off the ark and claimed the new world. That's the event that they've captured, and the bloodline that they've captured to have control over the birthright through all that genealogy. So you'll see in the Health Sector Transfer Act, in every agreement, that they refer to predecessors and title. So they didn't just capture yourself, your father, your grandfather. They've captured everyone going right back to wherever they come from, that tribe, or right back to the 8 that were on the ark. That's what they've captured on those 3 flags, and they're administrating the birthright, representing the birthright of everyone. And I can show you that in the administrative, mutual administrative order that administrates the double tax agreements. They're administrating your estate and inheritance under these double tax agreements. These double tax agreements are like a stock take of all these countries' resources.
I can confirm that I looked for my country, Bosnia, and yeah, there are double tax agreements. There are a few countries, lots of Nordic, and there is England, UK, but I couldn't see New Zealand. But Katia explained to me that it goes through other, treaties that they do with each other, and then somehow cover it all. It's a big like spider net.
That's it, spider net.
Yeah,
a spider web. Yes,
unbelievable. And
that's it.
And like, it's basically all about catching this bloodline. What are we talking about? Creating a new Israel here, and that's the new Israel, like controlling the whole world through New Zealand. Because I found some old scriptures where they say that America is the new Israel. So I'm confused there. And they're not doing good. They're not doing good, because the last big religion and Islam describes what they're doing. I read that. It describes everything. And how they forgot how merciful God was to them, because they were bad. They were always greedy, which shows now. And they will be destroyed, but just people will as well suffer, whoever is not conscious, and like get himself vaccinated or whatever, they're gonna suffer, and it's gonna be for generation. Some of them won't have kids. It has some cancer causing stuff. I researched like really deep down. First month I just went into that. And basically who is not aware of this, he's gonna suffer, and all his bloodline will suffer because they put some genetic, nothing good, which changes your DNA.
Oh yes.
Yeah. That's crazy. This is unbelievable. Like if I came to this and I didn't have people to talk to, of course you would think you're nuts. It's impossible, that the whole world doesn't know about it. So can I ask you, Nelson, because I don't know much about you, how did you came to all of this, like to research this whole thing and just went to the ground of it? I'm very interested in that.
Well, my grandfather, he's off that bloodline, and when he passed away and I was being born, my mother said he was at the window and he was knocking on the window when I was born. And myself having a European father and a original native, I don't like using the word Māori, mother, and being a half caste, I didn't fit in either side. Being a half caste. And the reference to that in the Bible is beware of strangers in your land. The stranger is the half caste. That's what the stranger is, or the Pākehā. When they refer to the Pākehā, that's the stranger that they refer to the Bible. Is you can only get a half caste from a white daddy and a dark woman. You can't get it the other way around. So this is another mechanism that they use to colonize everyone. Feeling growing up that something was wrong, you know, it's like Groundhog Day. Every day you wake up and you know something's wrong, but you can't put your finger on it.
Yeah, invisible enemy.
Yes.
Enemy. You can feel it, but you don't know what it is.
And certain bloodlines are supervised and monitored all the way through their birth, school, and education. They know who you are as soon as they take that pinprick. As soon as they take your mother's blood, they know who you are and if you're going to be a threat or not.
I'm sure of it. There is profiling, even, you know, that they are open, like in Japan, it's normal that people with zero, you know, factor, they are leaders, you know, they know that. So these are just little things, you know, that they present us, but there is so much, of course, behind, because blood is the only thing they cannot create it. That's where the life force come, you know, that's where everything flows. That's where energy is transported through that.
So when we understand under primogeniture that humanity itself has a matrix.
But it's a matrix of a sea of paper.
The human being from the first man and a woman have created this whole matrix of different cultures and nationalities through their bloodlines. You see what I mean? So if you find the first man and woman closest to who's living today, you capture that DNA, you capture every other DNA that's come off it. It's like if you capture the point in time where time begins every day, you capture everything that comes from it.
Got it.
Yeah. So they done that through those symbols on the flags. What's in the 1835 agreement, if you look at the New South Wales Gazette notice of the flag, you'll see that all the colonies, British colonies, and all the British possessions was vested in that flag. So all of that flag.
Can you explain, because there is a whole confusion about flags in Australia and all these symbols, you know, some flags, they have for example, let's talk about red ensign, we call it here, you know, it's the people's flag, but the people are very confused. How many, you know, points should the star have? The one, you know, below the English flag. So there are some wearing this David star, you know, flag. There is some flag with, it's a star with 6 points. It's not David. And there is a theory, there is this 8-pointed star.
Yes.
Which is like, and some mention it's the flag of the people from sea. So it's really confusing. I tried to find anything about it, but at the end as well you're confused if you read all that. It's very
yes. Well, this say without actually doing any due diligence of their own. That's why you get all this confusion. So just for a simple exercise, yeah. just for your own due diligence, go and Google what an 8-pointed star represents, and it'll take you back to the Anunnaki.
8-pointed.
Yes.
Okay.
The 8-pointed
Because my
star.
heart somehow, you know, attached to that 8-pointed star. I don't know why, you know, because of the number probably. You know,
Yeah.
it's 8. It's a magic number. It means eternity.
Yes.
And
yes.
so can you now tell us what would be appropriate star, you know, to the flag? Let's say people will choose the red ensign. To what I realized, the flag you wear shows how far you are in the consciousness, what actually happened and what the truth is.
You got that public notice there, Kathy?
Sorry, I'm muted. So is this the notice you sent off to Nicholas you're talking about? No, are you
It's a
hearing
big
me?
cutting off.
Kathy?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Can you put that one up? That one's quite a lot, yeah.
Is it Nicholas's,
Yep.
the letter to Nicholas?
Yep, and
Yep.
all those attachments, and you'll see the Gazette notice there. Now, interesting, this Gazette, and it tells you a lot. If you can see the bigger picture and not
This is
distracted by...
This is the email, right?
Yep.
Okay, yep, I've got that. Hang on a second, I'll just minimize you. And
Now, if we're talking about jurisdiction globally, it's time jurisdiction. No matter where you are in the world, if you're not at the beginning, everything after that is subject to that jurisdiction.
this is what you were talking about?
Yeah, those attachments at the bottom, the one with the Gazette notice. You open that one up?
There's no attachments.
Oh. Do you have the do you have a copy of that Gazette notice at all?
Yep, I do. I'll go and get it.
Yeah. Is everyone still there?
Yes.
Carry on.
Okay.
I switched off the camera because I don't want to promote smoking. I'm trying to stop.
Oh, that's okay. We're trying to stop it doing a lot of things.
Yeah,
It's a habit.
I'm trying to stop the hoax and the world as well. There must be just one key, you know. I'm thinking there is like a key in the sea of paper. There is something.
There is a key. Yes, we found the key to unlock everything. That cuts through every issue, which is the crown.
Do you know, if I can ask you, why do we need numbers when one person, you know, can start this domino effect, just like in a way contacting the right perpetuators and telling them, we know who you are and I know who you are, and I let many people know, just so you know, I know who I am too now.
Okay.
Something like that. Could that break a spell?
Here we go. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Screenshot.
Okay. So the event where they're given the choice to choose between 3 flags, there were 3 flags, and all 3 flags were used. Now, the northern tribes chose the one with the black fibrillation around the Red Cross, which is the national flag. You see it there, national. If we break down the word national, it means back to the word nativity or native. Nativity is the birth of a person, which is a slave.
Show pictures of the flags so they can see.
That's what national, the word nation represents. a slave nation, hence the national flag. And that extends internationally. Under international law, it's law of persons. There's your corporations. That's the dead.
So
That's
we are
why-
wearing the dead flag basically when
Yep.
we are wearing with the red. I thought so. It's wrong. Yeah.
That's why you got the black around the red. Black is dead. Now, and the flag with the white fibrillation around it, well, that's light. Now, when we stand at the beginning of time, we are in between night and day, where the changeover takes place. So there's a place where the flags were given, where the event that took place, where the flags were chosen, right there at Matoli Bay up north. Matauri is the face of God, where the sun rises every day. The first ray that breaks over the horizon, that's the first ray that the whole world sees every day. So the black and the white also represents night and day. So up north, you have the people there, and the original people on the east coast where the sun rises, and they were called Ngāti Rā, people of the sun, because that's the first ray that come over the horizon. And where the mountain that it hit was called Whakararara, which is all about the sun again, Ra. And the tupuna hongi hike whare was called Whare Ra. It was all about where the first ray of the sun rose every day. There's a diversion, they say it comes, hits Maunga Hikarangi down in Gisborne, but no, it hits right there. So, and on the other side of the coast, on the other side of, on the west coast, the people there were called Ngāti Po or Ngāti Po, which means the night, darkness. So we're talking about two jurisdictions here again over the timeline. One representing the dead, one representing the living. If you're standing at the beginning of the time, everyone behind you is dead. The other ones are lost to the sea. That's why it's a national flag. Now let's look at this Gazette. And I'll just read it out, because reading it and hearing it, it does two different things. So His Excellency, the Governor, and this was done before the 1835 Declaration was signed, 17th of August versus the 28th of October 1835. So this is the main event. His Excellency, the Governor, is pleased to direct it to be notified for general information that a dispatch has recently been received from the Right Honourable, the Secretary of State for the Colonies. Now, East Indian Trading Company colonising the New World in that time frame refers to all those colonies, not just New Zealand or Australia. All colonies, conveying His Majesty's approbation. Now, who is His Majesty? Doesn't say who His Majesty is. Everyone assumes it was King William. Doesn't say King William. What they created in New Zealand was another majesty because of the duality between the timelines. We're talking about the two parliaments. England, Greenwich Mean Time, 00. New Zealand, halfway around the world, international timeline, 180081. There's the two parliaments. That's His Majesty that they're referring to. So on the 1835 document, we have our own crown and our own king, monarch. It was written in there and encoded in there, and our own people haven't realized that yet. So they tell us every day when you look at the coat of arms, there's two crowns on there. But our people refuse to believe that we have our own crown, to everyone's detriment worldwide. So His Majesty's appropriation of an arrangement made by this government for complying with the wishes of the chiefs of New Zealand to adopt. Hey, what are you adopting? You're adopting someone else's jurisdiction. It was adopted, like adopting a child. Adopt a national flag in their collective capacity and also of the register of vessels. Oh heck, we got a registry, birth, deaths and marriages, car registry, ship registry. Are those all those registries we're registering every day, even at the doctors? You go and enroll at the doctor, you just registered. What have you registered? Oh, your vessels. Or you got a couple of vessels in your in the womb, floating in the sea of commerce. Hey, there's a vessel. Register of vessels built in that country. Now, the country also refers to the country you were born in, which represents the placenta. Country. That's the land you were born in. We were actually born in the womb. And you'll see that in the Perpetuities Act in relation to in ventre summalia, where we are born in the womb. And the placenta grows first. He's the firstborn, which gives life to the fetus that grows inside, attached to each other. They got a symbiotic relationship. They got a partnership. They're in an agreement. There's the contract.
That's the Holy Grail where they drink from. Yeah.
It's
And
the Holy Grail.
Can I ask you, like all this is pointing as well to these children abductions and what they do to the children? How is that all connected? Like, why are they doing it? They're just junkies, or like, and beside of sacrifice, you know, like, is this somehow connected or not, or just some sickness, you know, in people?
Oh no, there's a lot going on at the crown birthing, because that's what they call it. It's a ritual that goes back to probably Egypt. It's a ritual. Now, when you look at it, the crown birthing, the ring of fire, when the head is fully dilated, they refer to that in the Bible as the haughty crown. And then that whole process, the doctor is making a proclamation. Did you know the doctor is a judge? That's why they have a coroner's court. When you make an appointment with the receptionist, you make an appointment with the registrar, because they're holding a registry. And you're making an appointment. You're transferring all your assets, liabilities, and rights through an appointment. You're appointing the doctor to do an examination, and he's writing a report. It's a court of record. So when you go to the doctor, doctor, I'm pregnant, what do? A blood test and a scan to determine the point of conception. That's when you're captured. The paperwork comes later. Now in legislation, I can show you legislation that when they identify the point of conception, they take out a life insurance policy on the contingency that there's going to be a death, and sure enough, 9 months the policy matures and they got access to that estate because there was a death. So in the Bible, they talk about those who be first will be last, and those who be last shall be first. Placenta is the first to be born in the womb. He's the eldest. And then the fetus, the placenta gives life to the younger, which is the fetus. And then the roles reverse. The younger comes out and he's the firstborn, and the placenta follows and he's the last in time. See the jurisdiction?
Insane.
So,
Yeah, that's insane. That seriously is so wrong.
so
That's all upside down.
the corporate body is the registration or the given name that was adopted, that was the given name to the placenta. When we look at the forms that they provide the parents to provide the particulars of the multiple birth, our parents didn't provide all the particulars. There was 2 entities that came out.
This is the sea of paper. There you go.
Yeah,
We are lost in that. Yeah.
Now, if you look at the look up the word in ventre summary, you'll see that an estate was registered while you were still in the womb, and that your mother was the bondswoman that they refer to in the Bible. There was a bond taken out while you're still in the womb. So, so when you come out of the womb, first thing they do is that, well, you get a slap on the backside. You're already imprinted with fear. Next thing they do is there was a murder that took place. See, when they cut, or they get you to cut the umbilical cord, or they cut the umbilical cord, there was a murder, because the placenta is still pumping, it's still got a heartbeat. And you know what it's doing when it's still got that heartbeat? Pumping all the stem cell technology into you. But you've been cut off. You haven't been updated with all the stem cells. So you're operating at 15%. What happens to all the other stem cells? Oh, they take it out the back and they drain it. Oh, heck, that's superfood, isn't it? For the elite. So you've already been harvested. So if you look in nature, when the animal pops out and the placenta is still connected to the animal, it just dries up and then falls off. Heck, we've been cut off. We've been cut off from receiving our full inheritance. That our God-given birthright was all that technology through the stem cells. So if you know anyone's having a baby, let the placenta do its thing. Then they'll be superhuman beings, super intelligence, and that's where they're cutting us off from having those abilities. Our tupunas were our ancestors were superhuman beings because they knew that process, and this whole process of the crown birthing has been interrupted, and we've been cut off from God, more or less. So the next thing they do is they give you a jab. And there was a medical paper that was done several years ago in England in regards to the whole industry of psychology. And that only exists because they put a foreign body into your bloodstream, which causes an irritable itch in your brain that's foreign. And they label that under psychology, developing all these different medical problems. This is when we're, defenseless.
Shocking. This is shocking.
So whatever they're doing after that, hey, we're already condemned there. Now, here's the worst thing that comes after that. And when I looked at the proposed bill for registration of birth and marriages by Lord John Russell, the Bay of Islands was named after Lord John Russell's Bay of Islands up north. And there was another chap that did a review on his bill, and he identified certain things. By registering the birth, it cut us off from God because we have adopted the name of a deceased person, not knowing that all the time that we should be the crown, because the doctor proclaimed 3 times, here comes the crown. It's crowning. There's the issues there, the duality. Now, because the crown come out first in the Crown Proceedings Act, the crown has the prerogative and statutory powers. Because we adopted this national, or this nativity, this name, adopted it, which represents the dead, we are cut off from God. He's only interested in the living, so we become godless. We are worshipping graven images. We're worshipping the devil, the one that once lived. He lived, only lived for a short time, the placenta. That's the devil. And we adopted the devil's name because it was given. We adopted a dead person, so we're cut off from God. We're godless people. Only the crown is our connection back to the source. And all this is in the Bible. They just enacted it through these instruments here. We're just looking at it right there. His Majesty. Who's His Majesty? So let's go on. And there's a register of vessels, birth, deaths, and marriages, and all these other registries built in that country, or the placenta, granted by the chiefs and certified by the British resident, being considered as valid instruments, or this you see of commerce, instruments, pieces of paper. Even the flag is an instrument. Instruments come in all different shapes and sizes even. So instruments, and respected as such in the intercourse. Oh my God, you'll never have intercourse ever again. You got to have intercourse to create and to adopt who's His Majesty? Intercourse, which those vessels may hold with the British possessions. Oh my God, you got all the British, all the colonies and all the British possessions tied up in this one flag, operating this registry. So the following is the description of the flag which has been adopted. Now, when we look at the description, it doesn't actually, it says a national flag, but there is 3 flags. It could mean any one of them. See, the description doesn't say the one with the black fibrillation, doesn't say the one with the white fibrillation, and it doesn't say if it was the 5-pointed star flag. All trickery. And the worst thing up here, when you look at it, directed to be notified for general information. It's not even official. General information. So when we're talking about time, jurisdiction, and every registry and every flag around the world, forget about every flag, because this is where it's at. That's just the flag. Let's get to the document.
So where should we, like, we definitely need some flag, you know, it's like,
oh yeah,
sign for the people, you know, to realize there are people that are aware too, you know, of the depth of the deceit.
Okay. Yeah. So the white fibrillation represents the birthright people, and because of Joseph having children to the Phoenician or the Gentile, it meant that everyone had an equal share in the birthright. That was settled way back then. So when we're talking about the lion and the unicorn on the British coat of arms and different, like on the New Zealand one, the female and the male, that represents the 2 tribes. Judah, the administrator of the birthright, through Ephraim, northern and southern tribes, through the house of David. So that's all operating here in New Zealand behind all that symbolism in those flags. And just through that notice there, it's already a done deal. Then we get to the paper, the declaration, which set down the blueprint for a split title. Article 1, Article 2, and the other articles about the administration of all of that globally. So if we're going to utilize all that flag technology to identify ourselves, we want to fly the royal ensign up top, which represents the living, through the crown. Only the crown is the living entity in this relationship, and you'll see it in the Bible. You'll see it in the Bible, and they refer to the crown of life.
You see that? That's the flag. That's the royal ensign.
Royal ensign. That represents the living worldwide, because of the 8 that were on the ark, repopulating the world. So they've got the control of all the assets globally, underpinning the global bankers for all these global corporations. We were colonized by corporations.
Can I just say something? Can you show all the flags so people can see all the different ones?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. And I'm pretty sure they were talking about the Australian red ensign before. So maybe to clarify that.
So if we're looking at jurisdiction, the jurisdictions here, everything that comes after that through the timeline gets depleted and more confusing, especially in Australia. We're connected to Australia. The control is coming from the South Island through the 5 crown corporations, city corporations down there. We're talking about Nelson, Christchurch, Dunedin, Invercargill. What's the other one there, Jane? The 5 corporations down there, they've got a different jurisdiction to the North Island. The North Island is the national, is the connection to New South Wales through the Trans-Tasman Mutual Recognition Act. And then you got the North, East and West, which makes up the body of the head controlled from the corporate crown. And the United States is connected through the states through Australia.
So this is the other flag. Can you just describe that?
Yep, that's the company flag with the 6-pointer star that was flown shortly before they rose to Union Jack and lowered that one. So you got the black fibrillated one, the national flag. You got the royal ensign, where they got the authority to establish a colony down in Port Nicholson through the Port Nicholson deed of purchase before the treaty, and that was their flag, the company flag.
Where's Port Nicholson? Just so people know.
Port Nicholson is Wellington all the way up to Wanganui. And when they ratified that Port Nicholson deed of purchase, 27th of September 1839, they ratified that agreement. They extended the boundaries and from that district to the territories to the colonies, as you saw in the flag, the colonies.
Can you explain why they did Port Nicholson? What was so significant about that?
Port Nicholson, now we're talking about genealogy, whakapapa, ancestry. When they got here, they had to go and find the more ancient people that were already here, that were being subjugated by all the later arrivals. And when the colonizers turned up, they were collaborating to wipe out all those ancient people to control the birthright that belongs to everyone worldwide. Now, certain events took place down in Akaroa. Everyone thinks that this was all established up in the north. No. What happened at Waitangi with the treaty was the last thing on their agenda. Everything was established through Akaroa, and when we're talking about a time frame, 1820, we're talking about a time frame when there were 50 nations in the South Seas fishing the seals and whales. There were 50 nations, South Seas fisheries. These are all subsidiaries of the East Indian Trading Company, going back to the city of City of London, where all the ship owners and merchant bankers were all the bankers and the private members of the House of Lords. And they moved their whole operation to New Zealand, and it was established down in the South Island. So the more ancient people that were down in Akaroa, several tribes were encouraged or employed to go and take them out, and the Wakefield Land Company claimed the South Island under terra nullius, unoccupied land. The remainder of the survivors that weren't killed, they were taken back to Hawera, and those tribes that were instrumental in that part, they were the ones that signed the Port Nicholson deed of purchase, and they were given a tenth. You'll see the Wakatoan Corporation, the Wellington Nelson tents are set up down there. That was the Wakefield Land Company. And after the Port Nicholson deed of purchase, it was dissolved, and all its assets and lands were transferred to the new company, which was the New Zealand Land Company. That was established by William Barnett Rhodes. William Barnett Rhodes, he was a consul or agent for Rothschilds. Now, when we go back to Rothschilds, everyone knows what they did in the 1700s. They took over the Bank of England, and when they abolished slavery, he wrote the first national, he created a debt of £15,000 to compensate the slave owners. And from there, they created a new form of slavery, which was through the registration of birth, deaths, and marriages. And you'll see that in the 1808 Life Annuities Act. It's still in operation in the UK legislation. So that was setting up registration of birth, deaths, and marriages. And that was the new form of bondage that created a person. Now everyone's going on about the Sedicate Trust, 1666, everyone was lost to the sea, but a Sedicate Trust, they roll it over. If you look at the ancient history of annuities, you'll see it goes all the way back to Samaria, those Sedicate Trusts. Even the Roman financial crisis in 33 AD, they used the Christian uprising to create a Sedicate Trust. So they roll that over every 100 years, and coming to New Zealand, we have legislated in 1867 a Sedicate Trust. Then after that, in 1852, Land Transfer Act, you see the Sedicate Trust there, and then it disappears. The Sedicate Trust today in legislation is called a deceased person. And your birth certificate is that deceased person that you adopted as your identity. Now, specifically in New Zealand, a lot of the legislation, it's clear cut if you know what you're looking for, but there's so much legislation per head of population in the country, you wonder what's going on, but they've hidden a whole lot of key elements right across the legislation, and we've been able to pick them out and articulate and follow through the legislation how this all operates. And we've applied this, and we've given notice to the Crown entities, because that's what they are. They have a Crown Entities Act and the Crown Proceedings Act. The Crown Proceedings Act represents the Crown, and the Crown is acting through its person, hence the Crown Entities Act. One's private, one's public. So the Crown is the fetus, and the placenta is the Crown entity. That's what you're up against. It's your person, your elder twin that you've taken on, you've adopted, and you're summoning the dead, and you're getting penalized for it. Let the dead bury the dead. I'm only interested in the living. We keep using the dead person's name. Let him rest in peace. God's only interested in the living, which is the Crown. So you imagine a whole world walking around in Z-land, or is that all these zombie movies? Z-land. Welcome to New Zealand. The land of zombies flying a dead flag. See the bigger picture now, just through those simple instruments.
Spot on. Spot on.
Mm.
I just, okay, can I ask you, because you are aware of this for some time now, how do you see we exit all this? do you see us going that way?
Well, every action that that is done within your lifetime in your environment, they've got an act regulating everything. Everything you do every day is regulated by an act. All right. And when you know your part in that act, now the police have its own act, lawyers have its own act, so every part of the system is acting within its own act. And when you're interacting with the system through your person, we've found that we have to take control of our person as the Crown to command the dead. Only the living can command the dead. But because everyone's dead, when they arrest you, if you just, I'll show you, I'll give you an example what's on our birth certificate. I'll just share this birth certificate. Okay, this is our birth certificate here. And you'll see on there, there's missing information. It talks about was there multiple birth. There's missing information. I had to do a lot of due diligence to realize that, heck, there's 2 individuals on this birth certificate. There's actually 3. There's a company as well. See, it's a New Zealand birth certificate. That's not me. It's a New Zealand birth certificate. Oh, do you have an Australian birth certificate? Oh, that's the company, the administrator, eh? So yeah, there's the, now look up the top there, you'll see first, oh, sorry, see that there, first, and given name. There's a / in between there. Now, and words that symbol there is the word or in numbers, it's a 0. And then we're down here, we have a surname and a family name. Hey, there's 2 individuals there. Did you notice that? Now, at the birthing, Crown birthing, who came out first? Oh, it was the Crown. Hey, they hide the code right in front of you. See, there's a cross there with 4 different names. So there's the one that we adopted, the national flag. Oh, the given name. Something was given to you and you adopted it. Vice versa. And there's a family name and there's a surname. First, given, family, surname. Now in the Bible, there's a reference to surname and it's a reference to Israel. So when we're talking about Israel, like you were referring to Israel before, Israel wasn't actually a location. Israel was the name adopted by Jacob. Then it was adopted by Joseph. And it's actually a people. It's a living. Now over here, the government has a system, identification system, it's called Real Me. But I want to be Israel. Are you real? Or are you a real me? Cunning, eh? So there's the code right there. First, oh, it was the crown. So he has the surname, which is the name above all names, which is Israel. Then you have the given name, which represents the placenta, and a family name. Now, when we look at legislation, what was created for the birth certificate is actually a deceased person certificate. So the given name, Nelson Tamara, is actually what's been created in the Land Transfer Act, and I can show you. We mightn't have time now, but the chronology of events are all there, and we can prove all of this. The deceased person creates a record of title. A record of title, land. And it's joined with the family name, which represents a trust. So we've got an estate or trust. That's what's operating within the given and the family name. In the family names, we go with etymology, family, it's a house servant. So the elder in the Bible shall look after the younger. First, see, younger, first in time. It's a new model versus a late model. First means first in time, prerogative jurisdiction. And then what comes after that, we're talking about a legal entity with a legal life through the given name. So there's the two individuals on the birth certificate just through those four references there. Now we come down, see, that's why there's missing information, because the parents didn't fill out the enrollment form correctly. And same thing happened to our parents. So this has been ongoing since they established the registry, because nobody knew the code. Only they knew the code. So then we have a look at the warning and the caution at the bottom here. Warning. Oh, you know, you remember the Lost in Space programs every day after school? The robot would go, warning, warning. Will Smith. Will Smith? Warning. The certificate is not evidence of the identity of the person presenting it. Who the hell are you? That's not you. Why are you using it? This is what's going to happen if you use it. Caution. See, the police, they warn you and they caution you before they arrest you, eh? You know the word arrest? You know, they have those electric paddles. They're trying to arrest you to see if you're alive. Yeah, it hurts. But you're still using a dead person's name. Well, they can do anything with the body, eh? That's why they can just kill you on the spot, because you're already voluntarily representing yourself as a deceased person. They got no liability. Let the dead bury the dead. So caution, any person. Oh, who's this person again? Is it you? This person. Any person who, one, falsifies any of the particulars on the certificate, or two, uses it as true. Have you been using your birth certificate as true? Knowing it to be false is liable to prosecution under the Crimes Act. You're under arrest. Is that what's going on? In every scenario, you are under arrest because you're using this to identify yourself, and you're a deceased person, so they can do anything they want with their body.
So basically, Nelson, only way out, because this was going on for so long, and basically we were invaded. We were not even conscious about it. The only way to go is to push the lines as a living person, right? That's why we need numbers. And as that living person, basically, if you put yourself like that when talking to them, they totally change their behavior, because there is some ancient bond that bounds them too, you know, when you realize, and this corona means coronation, you know, crowning. So basically this is the start of the crowning of humanity. But I'm just worried, why are they moving so fast this year? You know, everything happened. Everything is happening. I mean, it was all rolled out, you know, but this is so obvious, you know, many people, even the asleep ones, will start questioning eventually when it really like becomes real to them, comes to their door. Because some people, for example, in some states right now in Australia, they look at Victoria as, you know, some fiction movie. You know, they don't see it's a blueprint. It's the beachhead, how they want to roll it out everywhere, you know.
Well, everyone's been asleep for generations, possibly thousands of years.
Yeah.
The Creator is waiting. God's waiting for his children to come, you know, wake up. And if they have to force everyone to wake up and realize who they are, they've been doing it through many means over many centuries, whether it's war or famine or all those things. Even the Inquisition, Spanish Inquisition, they destroyed a lot of people just through using the name. You know, they burned a lot of people at the stake, and they were trying to get everyone to repent. Do you repent? Do you revoke the name of the devil? And they ask, what's your name? Oh, the devil. Nelson Painter. He's the devil. So they crucified them all the way through history. When you look at it in that context.
Nelson, you're sharing your screen. Is that okay? You've got your desktop. Okay.
So there's an agreement between the living and the dead that was established in the womb. We just didn't realize it. We didn't do our due diligence. It's in the Bible. There's two sources of references that I've referred to. The Bible, which it's coded. Yep, and it's hard to understand. A lot of this isn't being expressed in any religious forum. It's encoded. And then it's encoded in legislation. So they give you the disclosure, but unless you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear and apply it, we are all lost. The living are the lost to the sea, not our person. They're administrating our estate. See, this whole system of government only exists through an administrator, an executive, and trustees. For those three roles to exist, there must be a deceased person. That's why government exists. It exists through your deceased person. There's the executor, administrator, and trustee. Global. So let's look at the agreement. Every agreement, and it's hidden in the Health Sector Transfer Act, because everything starts with the transfer of your wealth with your health through your mother's enrollment. So here we go. This is where it begins. Every agreement. Can anyone see that? Yep. Here's the elements of every agreement that you ever entered into, and I'll just read it out. Agreement includes a deed, a contract, an agreement, an arrangement, and an understanding. You know, when they ask you a question, do you understand? It's an agreement, whether oral or written, expressed or implied, and whether or not enforceable at law and without limitations, includes a contract of service and a deed, contract, agreement, or an arrangement creating or evidencing a trust. That's everything you do every day. we're in an agreement right now. This is how they capture you. Every day. So within this agreement, and every agreement that you enter into, you didn't know that you were the crown. So when we see what every agreement is evidence, creating and evidencing, it's called a crown endowment, which is a trust settled by the crown yourself, or just through the word by, or pursuant to any act, provisional ordinance, grant. So the crown is the settler of the trust and the grantor, or ordinance and council, or in respect to that land. Which land are we talking about? We're talking about the placenta. In relation to every agreement. If we've got an agreement with our placenta, we must do, because we're using his name. We're using the devil, we're summoning the devil through this land, in respect of that land. Now, if we look at all the assets, and every agreement that we enter into has got value, and this is what they're using to underpin the whole monetary system. We're giving value to that, every agreement. Here's the assets of every agreement that you're entering into. Even now, we're transferring energy, assets. Here it is. It's got a whole list of it. Everything you can think of.
Just going back to the crown endowment means, in relation to land held by the DBH, a trust settled by the crown. So that would be either your mother or your father at the time of going to the DBH to talk about the pregnancy, whatever.
Correct.
That can only be reversed when you would, look, I'm guessing here, when you've reached the age of majority, that you can have, you can change that settlement.
If you look on the printout, or in the birth deaths and marriages, the parents actually have up until the child is 2 years to correct the information.
Right.
After that, you're buggered until you're 18.
Can we see the printout so people can see what a printout is?
Printout.
I know it's different. It's different in every jurisdiction. Everybody's birthing documents are a little bit different.
Okay. Let me take, I'll just step out of here and see if I can find the printout. Oh, here we go. Is it this one? Oh, it might be this one. No. No, it's not that one. Oh, here we go. Yep. Okay, printout. So what we had to go back right to the beginning, to the RG9, which has no name on it. And we had to come back forward again. So we've got RG9, let me slow down. So this is one that was done at the hospital within the 48 hours that the parents didn't know about, which is the notification of the birth. And there's no name, only male or female. Now, when we're talking about male or female, that represents his or her majesty. But also in a negative connotation, male, female, under the corrections regulation, refers to nominated sex, where sex nominated by a male or female prisoner. Now, this is where concept of to bind the kings in chains through the sex, male, female. So that's the notification of the birth. That's when we were captured right there. Now, the word male or female, if you go back to the Knights, they wore mail, which is chains. And that also refers to mail that comes in the mail. So male or female, it's got a positive and a negative connotation. So we had to go back to there first, and we completed some processes. So then this comes under the source document, and this one here, the other source document that we're all been getting, but not realizing that there was another one, is the registration of the particulars of the birth. So there was a notification, then the registration. And in here, we have a portfolio number. We're talking about land, right? So we've got a sequence of numbers. On this one here, the notification number is number 3. And that's translated onto the registration of particulars of a birth, and they split it up to hide it. It's got 1/2, which is the 3, and then 4 other numbers, which is the portfolio number. We're talking about land here. And then down here, they create a new entry, and they give it another number, 82. A new entry. So the male, which is the slave, is given a name. Nelson Tamra, painter. And then, now that land, inland revenue has the use of it. See, inland revenue, the revenue's in the land. They got use of the land. That's where your land is. And they created a land right. Everyone's jumping up about their land rights, but they're talking about the one that they're walking on. They're not talking about the land that they were born in. So everyone has a land right, and that comes with a legal life. This is all in inland revenue because they got the use of your land. These are financial instruments. But I'll get down to the printout. There's just a chronology of that what I was talking about in relation to that person. So printout. Oh, here we go. There's different versions of the printout. I might have to turn this around. Here we go. So you'll see at this end that number 82. Now local government trades this as a bond. The birth certificate is a bill. Local government are trading it as abandoned land, by the way. So in here, up in the, if you can see that, it talks about a relationship here. Christian or first names only. Well, Christian, Christ, the crown, God. It's a code, Christian. See, Christian is plural for Christ. So we all create an image of Christ, which is supposed to be the Son of God, eh? Just clues. Or first names. So you're going to use that first name, or you're going to use the given name. It's that relationship between the placenta and the fetus. If a twin state whether elder or younger, there's that reference in the Bible. The elder shall look after the younger. There are 2 nations born in the womb. If the child stillborn, to be noted in this column, there's the deceased person, stillborn. And below the line, we're talking about the underworld. So we come down to this end. So in this document under the Perpetuities Act, where it has the inventory summarily, now perpetuity is a bond. It's a bond that provides unlimited equity that doesn't have a maturity date, never matures. So that, and at this point here, there was an appointment made, and you'll see in the Perpetuities Act, and the appointment, our person was appointed as the registrar. So that's his first office in the whole system. Remember that flag? register of vessels. Our person, his first job in the government office is the registrar. And I can show you in legislation to confirm that. So that's the underworld or the underwriter for all sins, debts. Why were we looking at this for? That's the relationship on this printout. Now there's legislation to confirm what this document is too. See, every one of those documents we can verify in legislation what they represent. So if I go down a little bit further, oh, here we are. They give disclosure. They have to give disclosure. And here it is here. That document is called a printout. Here's the disclosure, information. They hide things in different acts. This is under the family violence regulation. You know why there's family violence? Because you're using that deceased person's name and he doesn't like it. So you're going to be arrested. That's why there's family violence. It's called civil, civil rivalry. Disclosure of information on the Birth, Death and Marriages and Relationship Registration Act 1995 for administration of estates. Birth, death and marriages are administrating estates. Go figure. So we're talking about this printout. A copy of a document or a printout of information. The person wishes to inspect the document or have the printout or copy for a purpose in connection with the administration of an estate. That's that first name, that given name, sorry, or trust. Oh, that's the family name. They want you to set up a family trust. Why is that? Because they're family trusts. Given name, deceased person creates an estate, family name, family trust. And the person, now we're talking about this person now, is the executor, administrator, or trustee of the estate. So the estate and trust is created in the name of that deceased person, which is also operating those roles. So every time you use that name, you're the executor, you're the administrator, and the trustee, but specifically the trustee is the one that pays. So the next section, oh, here we go, Land Transfer Act. Disclosure of information on Land Transfer Act 2017. And it's in relation to a copy of an instrument or a record of title. Here we go. Here's that land again. We have a land right, but we're claiming the wrong land. Everyone's claiming all the land out there, but they haven't claimed the land they were born in. That's our birthright. It's an estate, and we can validate how much that estate is worth, and that makes up a unit of the Global Asset Trust that's being administrated from New Zealand. So, and also in relation to that printout, this is what it should be used for if they don't block us from using it. It's used to conduct a transaction with the person to whom that direction relates, to have an instrument registered or noted under the Land Transfer Act, to exercise a right held or satisfy an obligation owed in relation to the particular land, but not land generally, not the land we're walking out there on, but the land we're born in, such as the right to sell the land under a mortgagee's power of sale. So the Crown is the mortgagee. He holds the mortgage. The mortgage is to pay for everything. We're still working on that one. But we tapped onto IID and we did a couple of things, and we gave notice to the company's office, because that's where the land and the estate is held. And their response was COVID-19. Global lockdown, because the Crown was claiming the estate. And I'll show you why. Because in the Land Transfer Act itself, it talks about the Crown disclaiming his estate. The Crown disclaimed his estate. And the way that the Crown has disclaimed the estate, because he adopted and used the name of the deceased person. And it gave the estate over to the company. That's what we followed through on, making a claim to that estate. They didn't like it. Because you ain't supposed to figure out the codes. So that's what that document represents, the printout. Yeah. So I'll just come out of that. Now we know what the printout is. How are we for time? Are we all good, or do you want to carry on?
As long as you're okay.
Oh yeah. If I start slurring, then it's not okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Very informative. I appreciate
Okay. Let's carry on. So let's get back to the agreement to see what the elements are in that agreement that created those instruments and that estate that's held in trust. Yeah. Back to that Health Sector Transfer Act. Transfer of wealth is in your health. Okay. Here we go. Share. Back to legislation. Is it that one? Yeah. Okay. So you can see all your assets being transferred through every agreement. And that's those instruments. That's why Inland Revenue has got the use of your land. They created a Crown endowment. Well, your parents did, but when you've come of age and you're of age to contract, you are now. Whether it's the power company, whether it's, you know, all those agreements is what's happening. But you didn't know you were the Crown creating the trust, granting the transfer of assets, and you'll see down here. So this trust, if you look at section A, the purpose, being a trust for the purpose of providing an income derived from that land. You see that? That's the source of all the income, all the money that's in your pocket. Comes from that agreement every day. If you're employed with her and you've got an employer, the money that you get paid every week, oh, you created it, you just didn't know. So we're talking about Crown endowment land in relation to a DHB. See, everything was transferred through the DHB, the Minister of Health to the Minister of Finance. You'll see it in here. Minister of Finance, the Treasury. Vested in a DHB as a Crown endowment. Here we go. Was either granted by the Crown. See, you didn't know you were the Crown. You were transferring all these assets, your wealth. Now you know you're the Crown, and you are not the deceased person, which is the estate or trust. This is what we're talking about. This is a private and public partnership. Now that missing information on the birth certificate, you know who that information is? That's the Crown. And in legislation, the Crown is a private person. It was that private that you didn't even know you were on the birth certificate. You were that private. So a couple of people in Australia, they used the information as a private person, Crown, in the court over there. The judge said to the defendant, I have no jurisdiction here. What are your orders? Once they realized that relationship, private person, Crown. We got a birth certificate with missing information there. Those omissions created errors. Oh, I'm the private person. There, point to the missing information, which is the Crown. So the Crown granted it. You're granting this every day for every agreement. And you're taking on the liability by using the deceased person's name, the name that was given to the land. Okay, this is where all these entities come in. crown entities. Here's your person here, crown entity. It was transferred to the Public Finance Act, the crown entity. Now, here's all the liabilities. Now we're trading in debt instruments. The money in your pocket, all those agreements, they're creating by way instruments by way of securities by way of instruments are debt securities. Those the source, the RG9, the source document, the printout, and the birth certificate, they are all debt securities. We're trading and living in a debt society. That was the new form of bondage that was gazetted here in New Zealand. For a year and a half, that was gazetted. So here's our whakapapa, your ancestry, all your, through your father's father, you know, they talk about your honor thy father, honor thy mother in the Bible. Yeah, well, here it is here. It's called predecessors and title. So this is where they captured you, your parents, all the way back to possibly that event with the 12 tribes, back to the ark, with the 8 on the ark repopulating the new world, right back to Adam and Eve. There's no stopping this. Back to the beginning of time. Where's time beginning? New Zealand. You see all the connotations just wrapped up in that flag and that notice? Predecessors and title. How you going to explain that? It's the web. Predecessors and title. It's the transfer. Oh, here's our rights here. There's all our rights that have been transferred for every agreement. Transfer. So what's being transferred in these agreements? The land that gives value to all those agreements that underpin the whole banking system that's controlled from New Zealand with these double tax agreements. B, confer estates in fee simple. You know, that name on the birth certificate, it's an estate in fee simple of land held by the Crown. You got that birth certificate in your hand? It's an estate in fee simple. Who's holding it? Oh, the Crown. Did you know that? Crazy, isn't it? Whether in a lodium or otherwise. Come on now, people. I got my land here. You know, on the Pirates of the Caribbean, what's his name? Jack Sparrow. He jumped on the ship with his land in the bottle. Yeah, he's holding on to his fee simple. Confer estates in fee simple of land held by the Crown, whether in allodium or otherwise. Now that phrase there is only found in 5 acts. It's the transfer of land.
They'd be referring to, because land is an interest in land, isn't it? It's not actually physical.
Now the word interest, that's very interesting, because the word interest represents the use. So someone's got the use of your land, so they created getting interest. Now the use also refers to the usufruct, which is under military occupation that the corporations are using to use public property to create an income from. That's where the corporations come in, through the usufruct, which is through military occupation, through the use or interest in the land. Now, if you go to the Bible, it's called usury, eh? It's the connection back to the biblical. Everything's in the beginning there. The beginning of time, and in the beginning, in Genesis. Just the word in is a trust. You're putting something in something. So there's a trust. That's why they used the Church Missionary Society to go and colonize the New World, because they were bringing the go spell and the good word through the Bible, colonizing everyone. And the Bible is filled with all these, what do you call them? Nouns, abstract nouns. You know what abstract noun is? It has no substance. So we're using all these abstract nouns to talk babble because it's got no substance.
Could you just elaborate a bit on just going back a little bit with what the IIII was saying on COVID and how that sort of all ties in?
Okay, COVID. Because we believe because the code has been broken and, in the long-term planning, they would have had contingencies for this event. They could have planned this way back in Egypt's time, in the Roman time. They could have planned it. It was always been there, a contingency plan to deal with this moment when the crown has, and the people are waking up to realize that they are the crown. Now we just look at the word itself, corona, COVID-19. It all adds up to, well, this example. Coronavirus, crown, vi, which is number 6. Is that the 6th estate? The estate is man. And vi, r is regent or regis, kings or queens. And that's us.
Yep.
They're talking code to us. As they've had to cause this event because the door's been opened and they're forcing everyone to wake up. That's what we're seeing. And they have to do this because everyone has to go through the eye of the needle. Nobody's left behind. Something like that.
Just get rolled over. Those who don't come to the party and don't realise who they are, they get rolled back into the same system.
2 year, yeah. You saw it on the printout, or the parents got a 2-year time frame to change the correct personal information of their child.
Yep.
And they're setting down a 2-year time frame for everyone to wake up to who they are. Just to separate the wheat from the chaff. Yeah. Those who are awake will ascend. Those who won't will be, who knows?
Rolled over. It'll be just another day, and as it is at the moment.
Yeah. So through all these agreements, the crown is the transferee. See, that birth certificate, which is your land, which is held by the crown, you are passing it over through using the name. So you are the transferee. So you're supposed to receive what's coming back from that by the use of that in relation to the disclosure information. So the transferee is the one who receives the crown, whether or not acting through a government department. See, your person was appointed into that office as a registrar, which is a government department. Every government department has a registry. So when you go into conflict with a government, you're going into conflict with your person. Because we haven't established ourselves as the crown, the living, to take command and direct our person, which is the government.
Yeah, and you've said it before that the crown is the transferee, or unfortunately can be the transferor.
Yes.
Because we gave it away.
So
unknowingly.
Yeah. They call it free will because we keep giving it away.
Yep.
Now, in the Wills Act 2007 and in the Wills Act 1837, the word child means a will. So on your birth certificate, it says child, it's a will. You keep giving your free will away. So here's the relationship in every agreement. And if whatever people are doing and putting pen to paper, they need to know what's going on in that agreement before they even put a mark on that piece of paper. See, that piece of paper is already loaded and backed by this act. Do you see that? Before you even spoke a word, it's already enacted. Can you see that? Amazing technology, eh? This is artificial intelligence. They implemented it back in Sumeria when they started recording every transaction on those clay tablets, cuneiform, and it's evolved into what it is now.
It's evolving more. It's evolving more because it all started in New Zealand, this whole concept and what they rolled out. But then there is this person that like digged really deep and found out. So the whole Veva comes from New Zealand. Now we know, I don't know how safe is it to know this, but there are people that handle the matter this way. I saw some court footages and they just walked off free. So basically, if they could do whatever they want, they wouldn't be creating all this sea of paper, right? So we need to find our way through the sea of paper, which Nelson researched, what I heard from Kathy, for 20 years. Yeah, so this takes time to swim through this paper and to figure out who is what did they meant with that. And you basically needed to go so far in history to, see what's served there.
Definitely. To take in all the elements and strip it all away to break it down and to realize this revelation that we are the crown. And everything outside the crown is dead. The only living entity within this whole matrix of the existence is the crown that connects us back to the source.
Correctly. And what I understand as well, what it means to be dead, basically, you as dead cannot be hurt. So for some reason, they needed to put that down, that you are dead, and whatever I do they bomb you, do they take your country, children away? They're doing nothing wrong to the living being. Because Kathy mentioned there must be a contract, maybe you know deeper, between good and evil. They had some. Could you reveal us if you know more about that, this contract?
Yeah. It goes back to that relationship in the womb. That's where it begins. At the point of the divine conception, the spark of life. It goes back to, if you look at everything in creation, it's all controlled by binary code. Zeros and ones down to the atom. And if you look at the basic atom, you got a nucleus and a positive and a negative charge spinning around itself, chasing each other.
Yeah.
And the faster it spins from scale of 0, 1 to 1, 0, it changes form. So the faster that relationship spins, the first thing you develop is sound. And in Maori mythology, they talk about rangi and papa. Rangi, sound. And then it passes through a threshold where tips another scale from 0, 1 to 1, 0, and then we got matter, light. So this a source of creation that's been we're experiencing now around us, and through these agreements with the placenta and the fetus and the living and the dead. This relationship, this duality, has been going on right from creation. Yeah, so it's a duality. Can't escape it. So from the sound, you get light, and then you get matter, which is measured through numbers, 0, 1 to 1, 0. You know, on a scale of 1, 0 to 10. So when we look at the two neutrons spinning around the nucleus, one's negative, one's positive, male and female. So this whole system's based on that concept. Can't escape it. So when the light is actually the matter that we living in right now, and you know, some people can actually see everything around them moving like pixels, and we're interacting with it. So we're in the creation, and the creation is measured by sound, light, and numbers, and alphabet. The alphabet has got a corresponding number. So that's the sound and the light that manifests creation is operating through the vowels. E, or U. Which some people would say that's God's language, which has been hidden behind the consonants. God's language within the words that we speak. From what our ancestors were able to do, they could speak God's language and manifest things out of nowhere. But in the wrong hands, you know, this is what they're trying to get back to with CERN and all that, is the God gene that's within all of us. Or do they want to harvest it? Or have they been harvesting it at birth? But all that, what we're talking about is all part of that duality.
Nelson, Hector, you've got your hand up. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah. I'm just thinking what you said. Sorry, did you call me? Maybe I misheard.
No, Hector. He's got his hand up.
Sorry.
I'll just check.
Just a couple of things now. I've been sitting there listening. So you're talking about, you know, we hand over our lands from where we were born. Now that land being, you know, Australia, Aotearoa, the whole country we're talking? Or just
the Whenua.
Sorry?
The Whenua.
Yeah.
Placenta. The placenta is our connection to the land. It's the minerals. It's called Crown Minerals Act.
Yeah. And the land, I mean, the land, the physical land itself, meaning the whole thing. So they've got everybody's birth certificate. So right, we got all your birth certificates. We got the land now.
Yes, exactly.
More or less the whole country, pretty much.
That's right. So through our placenta, they have control over the land.
Yeah.
That's the
so not a specific portion of land. It's just take over the whole.
Yeah.
Everything. So now my other question was.
Yeah.
Now I understand that. So would that apply to China, Russia, Africa, you know, all those other countries?
Yep.
Is that and is it applied through the birth certificate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is global. This is not just between.
We keep thinking it's just about us in New Zealand, the Maoris, No, we've done this to the whole world from New Zealand. That's a big responsibility. Specifically for myself, because my tupuna was the grantor on that document.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, imagine. We're all Crown, and how many? What's the world population? 5 billion.
Or 7 billion plus.
Something, yeah.
7.8.
Yeah.
But I'm sure half of that population are deceased persons walking around.
Yeah. See, and one other thing. So my head was going 100 miles an hour. But
Yeah.
anyway, another thing was, so there are countries where people are born and generations, but they don't have a birth certificate.
Yep.
For example, India, you know, their prime minister over there, Modi, he wants to separate, you know. I think it's an ethnic thing, you know. So anyone who can't prove they got a birth certificate, that's it, you're out. But that's the thing. There are people who can't, they got no birth certificate, they were just born in a paddock sort of thing, you know.
Yeah.
You're talking about, well, poor ones, you know. They're,
Third world countries, undeveloped.
Yeah. So there's a lot of those people. They're probably more Crown than any of us.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're probably a lot freer than what we are.
That's right. No birth certificate, no nothing.
Mm.
They can walk the earth and do whatever they want to do.
That's why the United Nations are pushing programs to register all those people.
Yeah, capture them.
Capture them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
tidy up the loose ends.
Yeah. Increase the global wealth to capture their land that they were born in, through the land that they lived, that they derived the minerals from. It's about the minerals, crown land and crown minerals. That's what makes up the human body. Crown land, crown minerals. And those two acts are what they're using to underpin the global banking system. And under the National Provident Fund Restructuring Act, you'll see that every birth certificate or person is a unit in the Global Asset Trust, and they have placed a value on each of those units, which is $230 million in New Zealand.
Per unit.
Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah.
So they've multiplied all those registered estates, and that's their bankroll. So they can print money off there day in, day out.
Yeah,
administrating that, and that's what gives them the financial leverage to employ the military, employ the police, employ all those people that are in all these governmental departments against yourself.
And governments employing, you know, exploration, mining, exploration, drilling, all that sort. Because again, it goes back to the mineral under the ground, or
exactly,
and under the seabed,
and to keep you employed in a job. And here it is, right here in the Health Sector Transfer Act. This is where they create the employee. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is your person, not you, the Crown, your person, who has to get a job and be employed as an employee to receive those funds that are created from the land that he was born in, that belonged to him in the first place. Crazy, isn't it? So this is the Health Sector Transfer Act, and this is where the employee, the new form of bondage that they gazetted in 1835 in New Zealand for a year and a half. This is the new slave, your person, the employee. And he's an employee of the transferee or the transferor, which is the Crown. But because you're using the identity of that deceased person, you became the employee.
Mm.
It's called voluntary servitude.
Yeah, yeah. Understood.
Listen, I'm just wondering if we want to wind it up, wind it
Yeah.
down tonight. Maybe have another session another time. Russ?
You got this recorded, eh? So we can
I have,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
this was a lot of information to digest.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
It's important for those who want to know the background towards why we're doing, you know, why we're asking people to stand up as the Crown, and why we're bringing them into the United Kingdom of New Zealand, because the 1835 under Article 1 is where it was created.
Yep.
So that's our foundation to return to, to bring this to order. That's in my mind. That's how I see it. So, if I just give it back to Nelson to close for this session around, you know, what he would like us to do in the interim.
Well, we were trying to keep this all, you know, in house and bring people in, but since the COVID's happened, I think it's a good time that it'd be good to put this on YouTube, eh, Kath?
Yeah.
This is a good session.
Check with people because
Yeah.
it might not.
Nelson, if I can add something to add to your atom theory, is basically the yin-yang, the wheel of light and the dark turning, and it must be always in balance, but it must be to be in balance. It must turn around the right point. So it must, if we wanna bring this light to the night or be the balance of the dark, you know, we need to be aware of the threat, basically what's set up, and we need to act upon it. And I like to call upon the Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do theory, where he's basically he said like Jeet Kune Do, they practice this and they believe, you know, that with minimal effort you can have maximum effect and extreme speed. And you can as well, like if we all concentrate and around this thing and like spin our heads around it, you know, everybody will find their cause of action, because we now know what the problem is, and we just need to determine like what we're gonna do with the information we have. And we can basically with it's not an effort, you know, you just need to learn a spell, how you talk to them, how you act in court, you know, it's just a play of words, and it's minimal effort. You're just learning a spell, understanding your crown. This is what we just talked. It's basically we are putting our consciousness now all in this, and everybody picked up something, and you know, putting the puzzle together, and we could solve all this thing. Basically, it's so simple, because Nelson, you found, you know, where the problem is, and you found a solution as well, because it's not a problem, it's just the sea of documents that you went through and realized how the whole, you know, matrix fiction was set up, you know. There you go. Yeah. Jeet Kune Do. With minimum effort, maximum speed. If we do the right thing, you know, we can change the whole spinning wheel.
I agree.
Love it.
That's what I see. Yeah.
And you summed it up quite well there. And, yeah. I've had enough talking.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I appreciate. Thanks everybody whoever joined. I'm not sure if anybody of my invitees joined, but yeah, we have it recorded. I'll definitely share it with people. Everybody.
Yes, I'll send the link out to everybody. And Jules, suggested I put it on to BitChute. I've never used that platform, so I'll have to create an account and do that.
Yeah, definitely. Facebook is pressured by the governments, I heard. And after next month, 1st of September, October, they're gonna basically wipe out accounts and lots of information. So whatever you have on there, you know, everybody should download what's relevant to them to do their research. Yeah, and you know, to do their work for that what we're doing right now.
We'll just do a Bruce Lee.
Yeah,
Eh?
Max, yeah, we need to do it really fast. Bring this light over to BitChute.
Cool, cool.
Go viral.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
talk
you,
later. You guys have a good night. Greetings to New Zealand. And we'll be in touch. All the best to everybody.
All the best. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everybody for being here.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, Kathy.
Yes, thanks, Nelson. Good one.
Bye.